Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the vlog. Bit of a talking ahead video for you this time round, and this is to do with the Osmo Pocket, which I've been vlogging with exclusively for about the last 3 months. So here's my thoughts on it, positives and maybe some negatives as well. Firstly, the positives. Bitrate, 100 megabits per second. That's decent quality. And you know, for anyone that's wondering what megabits are and bit rates and all of that, the more bit rate you have, then the better the quality of your image, because the more information it is sucking in. So 100 megabits per second is pretty decent. Sensor size is a little bit small, but we'll get to the negatives in a bit. So other positives, 4K 30, 4K 60. The different frame rates that you have, 4K 60 in particular, if you're after that kind of buttery, smooth, slow motion, then you can drop your 4K 60 footage down by 50% and you can get that smooth slow motion. If you want 4K 120 frames per Peter McKinnon, if you want 120 frames per second, then you're going to have to drop to the slow motion option, which you can pick up either on the phone or on the device itself, and that is going to give you that slow motion, which is really, really good. But we'll get to the negatives afterwards. So the size of the Osmo Pocket, this is something that literally it does exactly what it says in the tin. For years we've heard, oh, it'll fit in your pocket, but this actually does fit in your pocket, and you can fit other stuff in your pocket as well, which is a bigger bonus yet again. So the size of it, you can pull it out. It's very inconspicuous. You know, some people are conscious of holding a big rig up with a camera. People have no idea what you're holding up. So some of the other big positives on the Osmo Pocket is it's a 3-axis gimbal. So it's not electronic stabilization, it's an actual gimbal. And basically what that means is something like the GoPro Hero 7 struggles to keep footage stable in low light, but on the Osmo Pocket it just works because it's that 3-axis gimbal. Face tracking is something else that works quite well, depending on how you want to use it. And I've got a little tip for any of you who want to track an object and you want to get it in slow motion, but we'll get to that in a while. So the tracking is really accurate. Face or any device that you kind of attach it onto, and to get the best out of the tracking, you do have to use the phone. All that said, those are some of the big positives. Actually, one of the other things that a lot of people wouldn't expect from something this size is the battery life. I have yet to run out of battery on the Osmo Pocket. What I mean by that is it's been charged lots of times since Christmas, but what I do mean is that on a shoot, on a day's vlogging, I have not run out of battery whatsoever. In fact, if you've looked at my most recent vlog, the waterfall one with the slow motion tests for the Osmo Pocket, I haven't charged it since I've got back. That was a couple of days ago, and there's still like 43% in the battery, and I'm recording that with this right now. Hopefully it doesn't run out. So battery life is decent. Obviously, depending on what you're going to do with it, but I find for everything that I want, I've yet to run out of battery, and it does charge kind of relatively quickly as well. Now, any other positives? Picture quality. You know, this is for the money. There is nothing out there this is like, you know, 350 euro. It's less than 400 bucks. There is nothing out there that is going to match this for price and quality. It is an insane camera. Now, let's kind of jump onto the negatives, and this might be a negative positive or a positive negative, but the size of it, you don't necessarily feel like a vlogger, because a lot of vlogging is done with, you know, you got your big Gorilla Pod, you got your big camera and that kind of thing. So for some people it mightn't feel the part, but let me tell you, it certainly looks the part. If I didn't tell you this was shot in an Osmo Pocket, you would have no idea what I was shot, and you go, oh, that's pretty good. Now, it does need light. In the correct lighting conditions, the quality is amazing. In poor lighting conditions, let me turn off my ring light here. You can see it's a little bit noisy in the shadows and stuff like that. This is just the normal light that's on. And then if we turn that off, it's like, where am I gone? So let's bounce the ring light back on. So in the proper lighting conditions, it works really well. So the sensor size is the issue with the low light. It's something that, you know, you're always going to struggle with a sensor size this size. But I think the quality that you get in a well-lit or even a half well-lit scenario is more than worth the effort and more than worth the price, because You know, you're not going to be shooting anything low light with this, really. Let's be honest. It's just too noisy. As I discovered on a recent trip to Dallas, we were in a place called the Truck Yard, and it just really struggled in the low light there, even though that place was relatively okayly lit at night. But anyway, so don't expect to shoot anything low light. I mean, this is not a Sony A7 III low light killer. Not a chance. It never will be. No. That said, it's, as I said again, it is a small price to pay. On the other negatives, I mean, it is really hard for the price and for the quality. It is hard to find negatives, but one of them that I find is that it's not as dynamic as a normal camera. So if you're vlogging, you got your camera here and you want to talk to somebody, you just spin it around. It could do with either a different mic placement, or it could do with two mics on the another mic on the other side. So you do have to kind of, as opposed to like triple tapping to rotate the camera, you do have to kind of flip the camera around itself. So you're turning the mic. So go, hey Johnny, what's going on? And flip the camera around. And it's something that would come naturally to most vloggers, but this is a little bit different because you are turning the screen as well to get the mic position. Now, all that said, an external mic, when they eventually bring out the mic input for it, will probably help, depending on how you'd kind of mount the mic. And the more I think about it, it probably won't, because the mic will still have to be turned. So it's a little bit of a design flaw, and depending on the vlogging that you are doing and the content creation that you are doing, it might be a little bit of a negative. That said, you can still work around it. So that's one of the major negatives is the mic position. The mic that's in there is okay at this kind of range. Now I'm using a Rode mic to talk on this one. I'm syncing up the audio separately, but you know, any of the vlogs that I've done, I don't have an external mic on it. It's just literally the mic that is. So when you're kind of, you know, this close, it works quite well. The autofocus, see. The autofocus can be a little bit hit and miss sometimes. You may not, you know, be wanting to use the continuous autofocus all the time. You might want to just turn it off, but it kind of works. And they've improved it over firmwares. The initial firmware that it came with, the autofocus, was dodgy, as we'd say here, but it has improved time and time again. So it's a little negative. And, you know, that's really, for me, they're the kind of major negatives that I have. I would love to see an increase on the 4K 60 and the tracking. I would love to see tracking in place on 4K 60. I get it. There's a lot going on in a tiny little body, and it needs, you know, to dissipate that heat. However, I would suggest to DJI, hey, give us 4K 60 tracking with like a 5-minute record limit or a 10-minute record limit. That would work, right? I could work with that. I don't like limits, but if it could get in there, it could get in there. Now, I mentioned earlier on a little trick. So the reason you shoot something in 4K 60 really is for that slow motion. So you're working on a 4K 30 timeline, or you're working on a 1080 30 timeline, and you reduce your 60 frames per second footage by 50%, which brings it in that smooth slow motion into your 1080 30 timeline. So I can't say the word 30, by the way. So what you would do, you would shoot at 24 or 25 frames per second normally, which gives you the tracking. And then for your slow motion tracking stuff, you shoot it at 48 frames per second, because on the 48 frames per second option on the Osmo Pocket, the tracking does work. So you can reduce that by half, so you can get 50% slow-mo in 25 frames per second timeline. So that's what you do. So you can slow down your 48 frames per second footage. Might sound confusing if you know your way around an editor, and if you're halving the frame rate on 60 frames per second, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. This sounds insane. Maybe I need to do a quick Premiere tutorial on how you do slow motion footage from the Osmo Pocket. And I'm not talking about the slow motion option in it, but the actual why you would shoot at 4K 60. The other negative is connected to slow motion, and that is the 1080p slow motion. This is the slow motion option. It's 4 times slow motion, so it's roughly around 120 frames per second. It shoots it at 1080, and I would much prefer if they had a limit, like a 5-minute limit at 4K at 120 frames per second. It would be insane if they could get it, but I would think the Osmo would just melt into the ground. But it's 1080. The quality, the slow-mo is great, but the actual quality of the image, if you're looking at it on your phone, it's really good. But anything bigger than your phone, maybe even your tablet, you can see where the image starts to fall apart. Now, that said, 2.7K 120 frames per second on the GoPro Hero 7 is really good. So I'm wondering, could they even do a 2.7K 120? Would be insane if they would, because everything that's in the Osmo works really well. The one thing I forgot, going back to the positive, the one thing I forgot is the color profile. So we have Cine Light D, which allows you to grade the Osmo footage. That's the other big positive, because you can grade, you know, the color profile that's there, the normal one, but you don't have much range to do anything. However, with the Cine Light D, you can drive on, as they'd say. So the positives are huge. The negatives, there's not too many, to be honest. I'm not sure why there's not more people out there using Osmos, because you can use it for anything. The size of it, you can get your decent frame rates. It's crazy. Actually, one last negative, I'm kind of jumping back and forth all over the place. One last negative is the SD card. Now, see my hands? I eat my nails. I chew my nails constantly. So I don't have nails. But I even seen people with nails and they struggle to get the SD card in and out. Normally what I do is the lightning connector that's on the Osmo, I push that out, push it into the SD card and pull it out that way, and do the same to push it in. That's the one major huge design fault, I think. Now, whether it's to do with the spring, whether they just change the manufacturing process or not, I don't know, but it is really hard to get in. If you guys have got an Osmo Pocket, I would love to hear your positives and your negatives from your using the whole thing, whether you've got it for a week or like me, you've got it for a couple of months. But genuinely, this is one of the best investments I have made on the YouTube channel. It's an amazing camera. The more I use it, the more I see the results out of it, the more I absolutely love it. So my name is Vic. There's subscribe buttons around here somewhere. They will be popping up in a sec. Yeah, we're kind of late in this vlog. We missed one on Friday, and it's just literally, sometimes life gets in the way. Everything is good, by the way. Thank you for all the concern that was there. I really appreciate it. And all is good. Let me tell you, all is good. I'm just trying to get a few projects over the line in the next week, and that's sucking some time away from me as well. Not only just family time, but vlog time and everything time. But it's going to be awesome, and you guys can actually see all of this as well in like a week or so's time. Anyway, my name is Vic. Thank you so much for watching. That's the subscribe button right about now. We will see you in the next episode of the vlog, and until then, don't stop fighting for yourself.